Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Super Dandori Bros Podcast. We are your hosts, Leighton and Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about a kind of a fun idea that we've come up with where, over the years, Nintendo has had a lot of different peripherals and accessories for their systems. Some of them good, some of them not so good, and some of them just bizarre. And, a lot of them were made for very specific games, but we thought, what if we brought back some of these peripherals and came up with some fun new game ideas for what they could be used for today? And some of this we've kind of come up with ideas for. Some of this we're going to be coming up live right here. We're just going to be brainstorming, coming with funny little ideas. So, Ryan, this was another one of your amazing ideas. So you got a good list of accessories you'd like to use?
I have a handful of them that I want to use. Some that I've actually had like personal experience with, and then others that I've sort of only seen, but I think could be like kind of goofy or at least somewhat interesting to use. So I'm excited to talk about some of those today.
Yeah, no, I think there's some really interesting ones. As I did some research for this, there's some ones I forgot existed, some ones I just didn't know existed. And some, like you said, I personally had, but I think there's some more potential that was, could be pulled from these. They never got to see their full potential in their lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like some of them, like when I was just looking up a list of them, I was like, wow, that really existed for like one game.
Yeah.
Like in one game only. And it's like, it's just kind of crazy. Or some of them, obviously, like the Wii Vitality sensor, like people talk about how that, like, they hyped that up, I feel like, for a couple E3s in a row. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like they talked about it a lot, and then it just never came to market because it only worked for something like 99% of people, which I guess goes to show that Nintendo's, like, really considers, like, 99% of its market, or 99% of people to be too like little of the market to hit. Like they want to make sure that it works for like pretty much everyone, which in some ways I admire the dedication, but in others I have to imagine what other like peripherals they ended up shelving because it didn't work.
Yeah, and I wonder if that had to do with like maybe their potential application of the sensor. Like it really was one of those things where they didn't want anybody to feel left out or couldn't use it, maybe for some health app, maybe for a gaming application. Who knows? It sounds fun. And I've seen some people mod similar things into games to kind of create different, change the game a little bit, where if your heart rate goes too high, something happens, or funny things like that. So it'd be fun to see that kind of stuff come back. So, but yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to start?
Sure, we can start. So the first one that I came up with, and this is actually the idea that I had for like when I came up with the idea for this episode, this is the game that I sort of like thought about of like this would be a terrible game to put with this peripheral, but it sort of makes sense. And that is, I don't know who here remembers, Nintendo wants us to forget it, but we shall never forget, Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. I actually own it. I own the mat. I actually have one of the copies of this, and it's actually quite fun. But I was thinking, okay, what other games would you never want to play with this pad that you feasibly could? There exist enough buttons that you could pull it off, but you'd never want to. And my answer is Fire Emblem. You would never want to play a Fire Emblem game using the DDR pad. I guarantee you, it becomes exhausting just to dance on this, as anyone who's played Dance Dance Revolution knows. Unless you're like quite well conditioned, you really don't want to be like jumping on this thing. But then to be using it to move units around and navigating menus would be like a total nightmare and sap all of the fun out of it. So that is my first. It's probably my only bad game pitch for this, but I thought about it and I'm like, this is the one I at least wanted to make sure that I introduced first, because I think it's such a goofy and dumb idea, but sort of gets us in the mood of reimagining like what we could use these peripherals for,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the sky's the limit with that one. I mean, my thought instantly went to like, how on the DS they had Super Mario 64 DS? And of course, they were like trying to get used to touchscreen as an analog stick, but I just always played it with the D-pad, and I just kind of got used to it. But it was kind of terrible, especially when I learned like what analog controls were like. Because spoiler alert, my first time experiencing that game was on a Nintendo DS, not on a Nintendo 64.
Oh, wow.
And I was just thinking, like, oh yeah, imagine trying to play Super Mario 64 with the dance pad.
Okay, a hot take for me. I think it's a better version. It has 30 more stars. It has more playable characters, and it's what taught me how to play poker. So
True. Oh my gosh, the mini games in that were just so good. I don't know why they had no right being that good. I do agree with you. I think it's the better version, except for controls.
Yeah, the controls are awful, but even the camera in the original game is actually pretty bad. It's pretty dated.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, but it is a product of its time. But that's
That's a whole
honestly
separate thing.
Yeah, whole separate things. I actually do think we should do an episode about like best mini games in Nintendo games sometime. I actually think that would be kind of fun.
Oh yes.
And
still spoiler or a teaser for a future episode.
yeah, who knows? Maybe next week. We'll see. But anyway, back to games. So you were thinking Mario 64?
Well, that was just my first thought because I saw the pad. I looked it up, and it's on my list, but I didn't have any games for it. But I just thought how annoying it would be to do some kind of 3D platformer with not just a dance pad, but a D-pad in the sense that it's like non-analog. So you're having to like dance like rapidly, like almost like tap, real quick to get your character to, and you've got the A and B button at the top too, so you've got to go crazy trying to get your jumps.
Yeah, well, here's another one for you. You would have no camera controls, so the camera would have to be stuck behind you the whole time. But imagine throwing Pikmin with that thing.
Oh my!
With
goodness.
your foot, that would be exhausting.
Trying to call them back and try to.
You know how you see like those YouTubers who will be like, I beat Dark Souls using the Guitar Hero 4 controller or like whatever. Mm-hmm. Like you've seen that. Oh, it's like 100% somebody should try to beat Pikmin with it. Someone probably already has. I haven't looked it up, but like trying to beat Pikmin with the dance mat. I mean, that's your cardio for the day. That's your cardio for the month.
Right. Oh my gosh. You want a weight loss program? Pikmin DDR. There you go.
Hey, supposedly, the rumor is Pikmin spin-off game maybe this year. Who knows? Who's to say? Maybe it's Pikmin DDR weight loss. You never know.
I mean, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I would too, but I feel like we're contractually obligated to at this point since we love Pikmin that much.
Oh yeah. Well, me and my wife, we play Pikmin Bloom like crazy as a way to kind of help stay fit. And so, I mean, a Pikmin DDR game would just fit perfectly into that. We'd get all our steps.
Absolutely, but specifically only on one leg, because you'd just be tapping the A button with like your right foot the whole time.
Yeah.
So you'd be like that one guy from Lady in the Water with like one arm that's way bigger than the other arm, but it's your leg.
Oh my gosh. Don't skip legs day. You gotta get,
yeah.
I didn't skip leg day, just I skipped legs day.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
So those are two game pitches for the DDR dance pad.
I'm trying to think of like another game that would just like, I mean, basically everything except for DDR would be hard. Like I'm just
pretty
thinking,
much.
I mean, like maybe like some of the SNES games wouldn't be so bad because they're already like based around that kind of thing. Like I'm thinking like Mario games wouldn't be the worst thing. It would be tough, but like a side-scrolling Mario, you could probably do. So any of those, but I'm just thinking anything 3D. Like, you try to play Metroid Prime with a D.
Oh, yeah, that would be atrocious. And see, that was sort of what I was thinking of, like, a game that you feasibly could accomplish because there are enough buttons, whereas, like, Prime, like, you obviously need to be able to jump, you need to be able to shoot, you need to switch visors, you know what I mean?
You need
and so
two
it's like,
pads.
Oh, gosh, co-op Prime. Except that you're both controlling Samus, so it's more like Pacific Rim.
Right.
But
that'd be
Samus.
Actually, kind of sounds like a fun idea having two dance pads, full Pacific Rim mode.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awful. We should make it. But yeah, but like I was trying to think of games that you feasibly could do. You know what I mean? And so rhythm games are sort of the obvious one. That's what it was built for. So I feel like those are sort of out. First-person shooters would obviously be atrocious. Platformers would be atrocious. Anything that you have to navigate a lot of menus, like a lot of repetitive motions are sort of what I was going for, and that's why like Pikmin and Fire Emblem came to mind as particularly egregious examples of games which would be horrible to do with a dance pad. But I don't know.
Well, the good thing
Maybe
about Fire
maybe
Emblem is it's not real time, so that would give you at least a little bit of advantage.
that is true.
Whereas like Pikmin's real time, like you gotta
Yeah,
like react.
that will make you panic.
Yes.
And this was before they had the charge.
Oh
This was
man.
Pikmin in 1 and 2 era, so you had the C stick to like try to move them around, but you wouldn't have that on the dance pad, so you have to throw.
Yeah. You just have to throw. There's just no. It's only works in Pikmin 1.
Yeah, pretty much.
Uh,
And you wouldn't be able to access the map either. Anyway,
no, that's all. I mean, you'd almost need like an updated pad that has additional buttons, like just an expanded pad.
in the bottom left and right hand corners, yeah.
Or like in the middle, you have like you basically have your analog stick where it's like it's somewhat touch sensitive, so you could just drag your foot around and it like acts like an analog stick.
That would work.
Yeah.
But it would probably break very, very quickly.
Oh yeah. Well, I have an idea for one that I don't know why it just kind of came to mind. This isn't this is off from the gamepad. This is a different accessory now.
Okay, good. We're moving on.
So you remember like for the NES, there's this accessory called Rob.
Yeah. I know Rob.
Yeah, everyone knows Rob if you played Smash Brothers, or actually played a certain Mario Kart. I think Mario Kart DS. He was a playable character.
He was my main in Mario Kart DS once I unlocked him. Yep.
He was so cool. Actually, I thought it was super fun to play as Rob. But if you look at Rob, and you look at the base of Rob, what does the base of Rob remind you of?
I honestly cannot conjure the image in my mind particularly well, so why don't you just go ahead and tell me?
Basically, it looks like a Roomba.
Okay.
So I got this idea of a Roomba Rob, but mixing it with the Mario Kart Live Home Circuit idea, where instead of it being just like a race, it's like you get your kids to clean your house because Rob is basically a Roomba and he moves around, but the kids control. He has a camera, and then it kind of creates like these like fun little coins and collectibles throughout the house that you want to drive Rob around. So he goes around the house instead of just like this automatic bumbling idiot that just fumbles around. It's like a game that the kids play, and they clean the house while they play the game.
That sounds like it could be kind of fun to me. I don't know. Nintendo, get on that. I mean, if you can spend that much money making Alarmo,
right?
I mean, you could get into like, I don't know, maybe the business of helping kids do chores. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I have one, and it's annoying because it gets stuck on things. It like goes under. It tries to go to places it just can't because it's like really shallow. Whereas a Rob would be taller, so he wouldn't be able to clean under things super well, but like he wouldn't get stuck under, furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
And also he has arms, and so if Nintendo went the extra mile, he could actually use the arms to pick stuff up off the ground and clean up other stuff around the house too. Be like a Chibi Robo Rob mixture.
I was gonna say, can it be Chibi Robo?
Chibi Robo, dude, there's like a collab between Rob and Chibi Robo. That actually would be super cool.
That would actually be really cool. Chibi Robo needs to come back. I know it never will, but it really needs.
Or
to.
they just need to literally make a Chibi Robo, like Tesla, and makes a Chibi Robo, and it just gets controlled by Nintendo Switch, and it just runs around the house doing chores.
It's like the least efficient way to do chores. It's like, I could walk over across the room and pick up this wrapper, or I could turn on Chibi Robo and climb up there and do it.
Yep, I know. But anyway, I thought the Rob thing was kind of fun, just because I looked at his foot, because I play in Smash Brothers. He has a very thick base to him, and I just thought he just looks like a Roomba. Like he just moves around like a Roomba. I'm like, that'd be perfect.
That would be perfect, yeah.
So
that would be fun. We need Rob back.
We do. I mean, thankfully
he's an ultimate, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody's an ultimate.
Yeah, I that's what I figured. I haven't played it.
I know. You're crazy.
I am.
We'll have to play that together.
That would be great. All right. So, did you want me to go next, or did you?
Yeah, unless you have any other ideas for Rob, but he's kind of a little tricky.
Yeah, not in particular. So one that I was always like sort of interested in, which I mean this would be like the most wasteful, like least eco-friendly, one that you could do. But I'm sure you remember the Game Boy printer. I feel like pretty much anyone who grew up and like was even remotely interested in Nintendo is at least aware of the Game Boy printer. I've never seen one in real life. I've never used one, but I'm aware they exist and I've seen pictures of them. And so my thought was that it would be kind of fun if, and there's no way that they would ever do this, but like if you had like let's say it was like a, let's imagine for a second, you took the Pokemon trading card game and they used the printer to print off like cards for you to actually play with. Like they wouldn't be made of cardstock or anything. Of course, they'd be made with the paper. But you're imagining something for kids, something with novelty. I don't know. I feel like that could have been an application for it. That could have been used, again, least eco-friendly, most expensive way to do it. But at the same time, like I could totally imagine, during a time when video games really actually weren't all that well defined as to like what sort of they would eventually become, and you can sort of see that in early game design. That like if you were going to experiment with a printer, I could totally see like a card game being something they would try. What do you think?
I was just thinking, like, wouldn't it be crazy cool if like you played Pokemon Red or Blue or Yellow, and like you could actually print Pokemon cards that were kind of built around your Pokemon, like
that's pretty smart.
The power level and like the move set and like certain things about it were all tied around the Pokemon you had. So that'd be kind of really cool because you could have like you could have one person could have a different Charizard than another person based on like what level they printed at and what moves they have that Charizard have.
That's actually a really great idea. Like that actually sounds like it could be really fun. Like totally unbalanced, of course.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like you don't necessarily need it to be super balanced for kids. I feel like game balancing really is there for adults that play it. But
I mean, Pokemon
and obviously
and balance don't necessarily go together, in my opinion.
That's true. But but that would be actually like really cool. Like I could imagine when we were kids, like totally playing the heck out of that.
Oh, they would have
assuming that we could afford
printers.
100%. Why didn't they do that? They allowed Yellow to print like pictures of Pikachu or something, but they didn't come up with like this card idea.
They made way more money selling Pokemon cards than having a printer where you could print. Pokemon cards.
But I mean, Pokemania was so pervasive that you could imagine that kids would want the Pokemon cards and be able to print their own cards, and they couldn't be used in any like official format. But again, like I don't think that was really the concern. I am quite confident that 99% of kids who grew up during Pokemania never actually played the Pokemon card game the correct way. I did not know how to play it until I was an adult.
I still don't know how to play it.
Yeah, it's actually not that bad. I can teach you sometime. Yeah. It's really not too bad.
Well, also the Game Boy printer was only black and white, so I mean you wouldn't have been able to, have as nice a cards, and it wouldn't have been cardstock and all that stuff. So it still could have been a really cool idea. Kind of like I think Pokemon Snap had a thing too, where couldn't you take your N64 cartridge to like a Blockbuster and get your pictures printed? I think that was a thing.
I think you're right. I actually never did it. I never owned an N64. I didn't own an N64 till I got married. But you're probably right. I feel like I used to know that at some point. You know what I mean? And it sort of sounds familiar. I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I feel like that was a feature that they definitely were trying to... Because it was actually kind of a wild thing when you think about it, because back then there wasn't any memory cards or like internal storage on the system. So somehow they were storing all these photos on the cartridge, which is kind of a ton of internal storage for that time. I think you could have like 60 photos or something. It was something, which is, I mean, it sounds like nothing now, but back then on an N64 cartridge, where most of the time all you did was have like a save file, but to actually be able to save images was kind of a wild thing. We take for granted all that stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, now you can just like screenshot something on your PS4 and upload it directly to social media or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I mean, which is like total, like, I mean, like what a change from the way it used to be.
Oh yeah, well, back when Pokemon Snap originally came out, they had you using film in the game, so that tells you how far
back. Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
So
I don't remember. I know we own the newer one, but I'm not sure. Does the newer one use film?
No, it's like I think you just have a memory card with so many shots available on it. You can take way more photos in the new one, but it's definitely like still digital. It's just for some reason he has a really crappy SD card.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Well, they needed to add some challenge, so they like filled up the rest of the SD card with like a bunch of garbage that they don't need. They're just like, well, you have this much for photos.
Yeah, super underrated, the new Pokemon Snap too. I feel like people don't play it enough, but anyway,
I should break it out and finish it up.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It gets the late game content gets pretty intense.
Oh wow.
Well, I mean, intense as far as like just like you really have to like grind to get it. like to get you unlock all the
gotcha.
maps and all the different like night modes and everything. And there's more content too. Like I went back to play, I was like, wait, I didn't realize I hadn't got everything. So
Wow.
super cool.
Yeah, I'll have to play it.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty fun idea, having the Game Boy printer. But maybe like, so would we just bring back the old one? Or are we talking like, well, Nintendo just needs to make a new printer for Switch 2? Like, don't use a regular printer. We need a dedicated Nintendo printer.
I mean, in some ways, I could totally see them doing that. I could 100% see them doing that instead of like trying to get it to work with like every printer in the world or something. But at the same time, I could also just see like an online portal where you just like print off stuff. But there is the novelty of just being able to. I don't know.
Most printers are kind of garbage, so maybe Nintendo would want to have control over that, like a little Polaroid type printer, where it's like, you know, they know that the quality is a certain level and they know it's going to work and yada yada. So, but yeah, that'd be fun though. So I have a bit of a weird one that I want to bring up because as I was doing research, there's some funky ones that I've never heard of, different accessories, especially in the NES era. Dude, the NES era had some of the craziest peripherals.
Yeah, because like I was saying before, they didn't really know what gaming would be. Like that was in some ways the most experimental era. That was the Wild West of gaming.
Well, remember, like back then, people didn't have home computers. That wasn't a normal thing. So basically, this was like the first computer type device people had in their homes. You know, there was no home PC or anything. Like this was kind of like we really because we weren't around during that time, like take for granted just how crazy that time was. Well, there was this accessory in the list I found that this looked really funny, and I think it'd be really cool if it got brought back in a modern way. It's called the NES Super Chair.
What?
It is a chair that you sit in, and as you lean different ways, it controls the direction you move in the game. And so you lean forward, you go forward, you lean back, you go back. It's a legitimate product. I didn't know it was real, so I found and I checked on YouTube. Some guy bought one and tried it out. And it's hilarious. It has like these two sticks that you hold on your left and right hand to kind of help ground you. And then you just move your body. And then I think the sticks have like buttons, so it'd be like A and B. So I just thought it was crazy. Like they showed him playing like one of those top-down like Galga type shooter type things. And but I just thought, what a concept, right? You control your movement with the chair. And so I thought, like, what if you brought it back and you did something like a bobsled game?
That sounds like it could be kind of cool.
Or like a water park simulator, or flight simulator, or like something like that.
I was gonna say, like, going out on a limb here, because EA no longer has the exclusive license. Let's get Rogue Squadron back.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
And use the chair. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'm on board with that. I mean, I've wanted to renew a Rogue Squadron game, regardless of the peripheral. But yeah, if I had to buy that peripheral to make that game happen, I'd do it.
Yeah, 100%. I will say, like, I am definitely aware of Squadrons. I own Squadrons. I actually kind of like it. I've played some of the multiplayer. I really wish it had done better because I feel like we really do need like an actual like Rogue Squadron game. You know what I mean? Like a new Rogue Squadron game. And I don't know. I feel like Squadrons was sort of the test drive for that in a way. But
it was kind of a blend between Rogue Squadron and like the old X-Wing TIE Fighter games, because it had like the ability to change your power levels to your shield, your speed, or your attack. So it wasn't like super in depth, but it was kind of a cool novelty, and you could do a lot more like maneuvering and stuff. But yeah, definitely not like Rogue Squadron was more like arcadey. You know, it's a very arcade game, but that's just what you like. It just felt really fun to play, even if it wasn't like a great, Star Wars simulator. So I do miss that, and it's definitely a game I'd love to see Nintendo, at the very least, like re-release somehow. I mean, even if it's like not a virtual console type game, but just literally like a re-release that's ported to the Switch or Switch 2, like I'd take it in a heartbeat.
Okay, so then I'll do you one better. What if instead of Rogue Squadron, it was Star Fox?
Ooh, like in the super chair?
Yeah, in the super chair. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude,
the super Switch chair.
Try to do a barrel roll.
You have to spin around in the chair. It's not like...
I actually would be kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. Like being able to like lean forward to make the ship go down, lean back to make the ship go up, left, right, and then just like I don't know. I guess you have to pull some buttons just to get to do a barrel roll, but which is not actually a barrel roll. It's an aileron roll, but still.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Wow.
Anyway, so that was just I just saw that and I was like, super chair, what is this? So I had to look it up and I was like,
that's bizarre.
I just looked at it, like, there's actually potential still.
Please tell me that you'll have like that picture in the thumbnail.
I think I will.
Like a picture of the super, please.
I will find a way to get it in there.
Our extremely large and dedicated audience must see this.
Yes, super dedicated audience. Yes, thank you for all that are listening. We appreciate you.
Yes, however many you are. We love you all.
Yeah, so that's my next one. What's yours?
Okay, so my next one is sort of the opposite of what I had just been saying. So I don't know. I feel like we've never talked about this in all the years that we've been friends. I feel like we've never talked about this. Have you ever heard of the Mega Man Battle Network games?
Oh, yeah.
For the Game Boy? Okay, did you ever play them?
I played some of them, yeah.
Okay, so you know how, I don't know if you've seen the show or anything, but you know how like the lore is that it's like essentially like an AI or whatever that fights viruses, and you insert chips into the device like in the lore to give it attacks or whatever. So the e-reader was essentially that, and I know to some extent the like there was some compatibility with cards, but could you imagine building an entire game around that where it's just the reverse of what we were just pitching? Like, let's say you had a Pokemon trading card game, for example, and you could just swipe. And I know that the Pokemon trading card game did have like e-reader compatible cards at one point. To what extent I don't know, but like if that was the main gameplay loop where you actually just like were able to swipe it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and granted, could you cheat that way? Absolutely. So you wouldn't be able to have like a traditional deck or something. You would essentially have to have access to like mini cards at once, maybe only like 10 or something, I don't know. And you just are able to, like, maybe the game isn't even like really a card game, but it sort of uses cards, and you I don't know, as part of the game's lore, like there's a reason for swiping. I don't know, like you could imagine any like lore creatively you want, but I thought that the reverse of that, and specifically the e-reader, was such a cool idea. Yet another peripheral I've never actually seen in person and never used, but heard really good things about. Did you ever have any experience with an e-reader?
I never got to hold one. I remember seeing it in a store once and thinking it was the coolest thing. I was like, whoa, you could just take these cards and swipe it and it just works. But I never actually got to like use one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you've never played the Mega Man Battle Network games, they just released like within the past couple of years like a collection of all of them. I've been waiting for it to like go on sale significantly and for me to have the spare cash to pick it up, because I loved those games as a kid. But anyway, that putting that aside, I think that like bringing the e-reader back is something I 100% could see them doing in the Switch era. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the e-reader, and in some ways they almost kind of have that with Amiibo. Like Amiibo is sort of the same idea, but obviously much more expensive and kind of cooler to have on display.
Well, they did do the Animal Crossing Amiibo cards.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about those.
So
one of my friends had a huge collection of those.
Yeah, so technically speaking, they can do the NFC cards, and basically that's the equivalent of an e-reader, just not swiping, you're just tapping them. So yeah, they absolutely could bring this whole concept back. And in a weird way, they kind of almost did by having the Amiibo Animal Crossing cards. Like that was kind of a weird...
Wow.
So I think that'd be really cool. I think it'd be super cool if they just did a whole bunch of things like that, like basically making, like they should just make cards, because I mean when you buy into some of these systems, like the cards are so expensive anyway. They should either, one of two ways, they should either have the NFC where you tap them, or somehow have a camera that can recognize them. But like games like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or any of that stuff, like could you imagine if like you just have your deck of cards physically, but you're playing with someone online and you could just tap your cards onto the system and it just puts them in the game, but you're still using your physical deck?
So this actually, you can tell that I had a theme when coming up with these. This is actually one of like my next topics, so let's just jump into it since it's connected. I thought that the next evolution of that, like the swiping motion is awesome, but the next evolution of that would have been during the 3DS era with AR cards. Could you imagine having like AR compatible cards that you could play like that, but it essentially does the Yu-Gi-Oh hologram thing, but in AR?
That'd be super cool.
Like, total missed opportunity, to be honest. Sorry for the noise. That's my cat sneezing.
But like, it's so doable still. Like, they just have to do a camera attachment to the Switch, or what they have done is you can like, there's certain games that tie the cell phone to
That's true.
the system, and obviously cell phones have crazy good cameras on them nowadays, and like there's obviously like games like Jackbox where you're kind of connecting to it, but there's also games like not 1-2. It's the sequel. What's the sequel to 1-2 Switch? It was
Switch 2-3. I don't know.
It's a sequel. They had one where basically you go around and you're trying to show you a color on the screen. And you have to go with your phone, find something that's close to that color, take a picture of it, and then the game will automatically be able to detect which is the closest color and who wins.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, so
that's kind of cool.
So Nintendo's already experimented with the idea of using cell phones paired with the Switch. So why not have it where, like, yeah, I'm playing, like, I don't know, a Yu-Gi-Oh card game or whatever card game. It could be, like I said, Magic the Gathering or whatever game you want to play that's got physical.
Or a new Nintendo card game.
Oh, that'd be cool. Like almost like a Smash Brothers, but in cards. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they could, like, and the thing is Nintendo, like, was a game company before it was a video game company. You know what I mean? Like, toys and games. They have experience in this sort of thing. And so, like, 100% they could pull it off if they really wanted to.
Yeah, so I think it's all possible. It's just a matter of, like, building a compelling game that people would want to get behind. It might be easier if someone else did it outside of Nintendo, and then Nintendo just came in like, we have our own version, versus Nintendo trying to lead the charge. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if Nintendo had a compelling game where, like, all their properties, like, you know, in Smash Brothers, how, like, you have the spirits, and they have, like, just about every single character known to man is a spirit. But, like, imagine they did that, but with cards, and then somehow made a game out of it, and then you could, like, fight, like, Smash Brothers style, but with trading cards.
Yeah. And specifically, like, I think, you know, a lot of people, myself included, one of the reasons why, like, I don't really get into card games is because of just how, you know, they're designed, where you essentially, like, have to have power creep if they're still adding to the game, you know, and so each new pack or whatever is better than the previous pack, and so therefore giving you the incentive to buy it. And while that would be a great moneymaker for Nintendo, I also think that, like, something that's sort of self-contained, kind of like Dice Throne is, for example. So you and I both love Dice Throne, which is, for, you know, our listeners, probably the first time we brought it up. It's like it's a board game. It's really fun. You should look it up. We'll probably do an episode on it at some point. But you know, where it's essentially just like one, you know, self-contained unit or whatever, and it doesn't require you to pay, you know, exorbitant amounts of money for expansion packs where you don't know what you're gonna get. You know, like, I could totally see that. You know, while that would make a ton of money, it may not necessarily be the only way to implement it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the idea of the self-contained and less gambling.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what kept me out of the Pokemon card race, is just the gambling side of not knowing what you're getting. But yeah, I think there's so much potential. The e-reader is definitely, like, probably one of the most, like, interesting devices that I think has so much potential. Obviously it's not going to come back as an e-reader, I don't think, but I love the idea. I think that's, like, because I had it, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! I had Monopoly, like, with money and, like, a credit card you swiped if you still use the e-reader thing, but everything's tap to pay now anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
I think the only shot that the e-reader has of coming back as an e-reader is, you know how, like, Nintendo will release the, like, sort of, like, mini legacy, like, console things of, like, the, you know, if they did that for the Game Boy Advance and it had a built-in e-reader just, like, for the heck of it with some cards, I doubt they'd do that. But I think that'd be the only chance it comes back as an e-reader in the exact way, you know, that it functioned before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, I hope they come out with some more minis. That was kind of a fun thing they did, but I just think with the Virtual Console, the NSO, whatever thing now, they just have no incentive to do that. Because those things came out before the Switch, I think, did.
Yeah, they just want our money instead.
Well, they were low on money. It was the Wii U era.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Okay, well, let me see. I've got a few more ideas, but this is where I'm starting to run out of like actual ideas. I'm going to need a little bit more brainstorming. Um,
Sure.
One idea I had was an accessory I actually owned, and I think actually was way better than I ever had any right to be, was the Wii Balance Board.
Yes, yes. It
And
was ridiculously good for like no reason.
yeah, I was shocked at how like accurate it was. And I did play Wii Fit and do all that stuff. And I was like certain mini games I really liked, but I thought there's so much potential with this that never got implemented. The one idea I thought about, like if they were to bring it back, is to use it as a means to like so in VR, use it as a means
Mm-hmm.
for maneuvering and walking. So if you're taking steps in on the pad, it
Mm,
kind of like acts as like you're walking. So it kind of makes you feel less nauseous when you're moving because you're actually moving your legs to walk, and like the faster you walk on the balance board, the faster you move in the game. So it's all kind of connected versus you just pushing an analog stick forward.
yeah, I think that that would be a really cool use of the pad. I remember using the board. I remember like my first experience with it was at a mutual friend's house. He got it for his birthday, and he got like a snowboarding game, and we played the heck out of that way more than we played Wii Fit. I think we like put Wii Fit in and played it for like 10 minutes, and we're like, let's try the snowboarding game, and then we like played it all night.
So that's what I imagined like was going to be the evolution of it, right? Was like snowboarding, skateboarding games, things like that, which makes total sense.
Absolutely, and sort of thinking about like, okay, what other games like you would like want balance on, like if you specifically wanted to use its balance functionality, like the first thing that comes to mind is something like a Super Monkey Ball esque like game,
Yeah.
but you'd have to make it like super accurate, or like one of those sometimes they include them as like mini games in video games where it's like a maze with a ball in it, and you have to like like rotate the box and use gravity to sort of redirect the ball like through the maze, and sometimes it'll like fall off and it restarts or like goes through like some hole, something like that. I could totally see that being used. I was thinking like what else hypothetically like sort of fits in that, and of course Star Fox comes to mind, but that would be an awful game. There's another one to add to the pile for like bad game ideas for old Nintendo peripherals. Like a Star Fox game for that would have been awful.
Yeah, but I can see Nintendo trying something with Star Fox after Star Fox Zero.
100% somebody at some point had pitched that with the Nintendo. They're like, what we could do with the balance board?
Star Fox.
Oh gosh, that'd be awful. But I love the idea of using it for VR because I feel like that is sort of, in some ways, a limitation of the current VR hardware, where you don't really get like with standard VR hardware, like you don't really get foot motion quite as much. So that would be kind of cool. It isn't perfect, but I think it actually is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I just was trying to think of ways that like it could be used differently than what you would expect, which was like Wii Fit and snowboarding, like the two main things I think people thought of. But I was like, yeah, I love the VR thing, and then yeah, like what you just were talking about too. It's just all of it, kind of yeah. It was an interesting peripheral, and Nintendo tried to come with more, but I just didn't really. I think at a certain point, it's still at the end of the day just a board you stand on. So
Absolutely. I was just thinking like, okay, what other like hypothetically like things could you use it for? And just another out of the box idea that Nintendo would never do, but like would be kind of like in a world where they did do it, it'd be kind of interesting. Is what if they incorporated like, instead of it being like a weight, like a balance board, instead it had a bunch of like NFC readers, and it was used as like a board game, like a remote board game, like with pieces. Like you see what I'm saying? Like let's say that you like, for the simplest example, you would want something like chess, as like a game you could play, and each of the pieces has like its own like card in it, and so then it knows exactly where each piece is, and then you could play chess remotely. It's a very complicated way to do it that you don't need to, and you would never like actually use it for chess, but I think it helps envision like what I'm sort of suggesting, that if Nintendo again were to like branch out outside of video games as they are doing with the movies and the theme parks, like hypothetically you could envision a world where Nintendo starts producing more physically like based games as opposed to like just video games. I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm not saying they're definitely going to do it. I'm just saying it's not the craziest idea in the world.
Yeah. No, I mean I don't see why they. I don't know how expensive I guess that would be, but that'd be really fun.
Probably very.
It could give it multi-purpose rather than just being a balancing board. So, but yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Chess, or just again, I always thought that one of the strangest things was during the whole Toys to Life thing when it was super popular. With Skylanders and Disney and all that stuff were doing it. Lego had theirs. Nintendo had all their amiibo, and I really genuinely thought that Nintendo was going to create some new game that basically was similar, where you tap an amiibo and it pops up in the game, right? It never, came to fruition. They did the closest thing they did was Smash Brothers, where you had but it's like I was like really thought that there's so much missed potential there, where they could have have all these amazing figurines and just been like, yep, here's this amazing open world thing where you can just play as any of your favorite Nintendo characters and go on adventures and do crazy stuff.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
And I still think it's possible. I just wonder if Nintendo's even going to keep supporting Amiibo, or if that's gone with the wind.
I honestly don't know. Like, I don't even remember when the last one was released. I think they had some Tears of the Kingdom ones. That's the last one I'm aware of, but I haven't gone out and researched it.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think they did have Tears of the Kingdom ones, because I know they had for Dread, so they were supporting it throughout the Switch. But yeah, it definitely felt like I think Smash Brothers was the big push for Amiibo, and that was the only game that really had a massive use for them. So I think that it would be interesting to see if they find a better use for them with the Switch too, or if they just were like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah, there's a part of me that, I'm not obviously a parent, but there's part of me that sort of does the idea of the Toys to Life thing. Obviously not in its exact implementation that we got, the execution, not necessarily the best, but I sort of like the idea of it, that there's a part physical, part digital game in a way. Yeah. But the exact way we got it, I don't know if that's optimal. You know what I mean?
Because I actually got a little bit of experience with it. I didn't invest into it, but when I bought my Wii U, it came with Skylanders. I can't remember which one it was, but it was the one where basically they had these characters that you can mix them up. The top part could be different than the bottom part, and you could do all this fun stuff. So you basically put them in the game, and it was actually surprisingly seamless, where you tapped on the thing, because it wasn't tapped to the Wii U, it was tapped onto the little platform thing it came with, and it was almost instantaneous that they showed up in the game as what you just created. And as silly as it sounds, it was kind of this very satisfying feeling of having this physical object and feeling kind of like the old 80s movies where you just felt like you were you were in the game, you tap the thing and suddenly you're sucked into the game. It was kind of this really fun. I kind of liked it. I can see why there was appeal for it. Obviously, the appeal wore off, and I joined in way late in the game, so everyone else was kind of yeah, I've been there, done that, and burned all my cash. So, but I always felt like there was so much Nintendo. Because Disney jumped on it, and I thought, well, that makes total sense. Come on, Disney's got all their IP. Lego did it, and they had all these crazy IPs that I couldn't believe. They had Doctor Who and Back to the Future and all these crazy IPs that all were together in one game. So there was so many cool opportunities, but I think everyone just kind of got burned out when everybody jumped in on it, and everyone was just like, okay, no, I don't have enough money to buy all of you, and there's not enough market share to share it between everybody. So, but
if they were able to, obviously it's not exactly how it works, but let's assume that we got a second go around of that. Ideas come back around eventually, right? And let's say that they tried it again, but this time it was cheaper, it was easier to access. I could totally see it being bigger than it was, you know what I mean, and lasting longer. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I think they just
I feel like the limiting step, like you were saying, was the market share and the cost.
Yeah, they definitely got a little greedy, and that was kind of the challenge of that. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if it ever comes back. You're right. Probably things do come back. I keep waiting for Guitar Hero and stuff to make a comeback. It's
only a matter of time.
Yeah, I think it did try making a comeback, but I don't think it did so well.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That was an era, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Where we were getting Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and like a new one every year or whatever. It was like Call of Duty, and it's like that really is the same game over and over again, like truly.
Oh yeah. Well, you keep in mind, like, it's crazy to think that Guitar Hero started in like the PS2 era.
Yeah,
Like,
that's bizarre.
Rock Band kind of not made it even better in the 360 PS3 era when you could actually download more songs. Like, that was kind of the novel thing, whereas like Guitar Hero 1 and 2, I think you were kind of locked, and then Guitar Hero 3. I had the Wii version, so I was locked to the songs it came with. But I think on the other systems, you could download additional songs for Guitar Hero 3, yeah. Which is kind of cool. But I just got really, really good at those songs. I would love to go back to that game. I missed that game.
I have the Guitar Hero set still. Well, most of it. I should be able to find the remaining pieces. So the way it's set up on PS3 with the Guitar Hero World Tour, which I think is Guitar Hero 4, right? Mm-hmm. Is they have these, like, for whatever reason, even though the PlayStation wirelessly connects to its controllers, it will not wirelessly connect to the instruments. And so what you need to do is attach these like weird USB dongles to the PlayStation, which wirelessly connect for you, and you have to daisy chain them.
That's so weird.
It's bizarre. So I those dongles, I don't exactly know where all of them are, but I am working on it. So when I find it, like, we should play some of that just for old time's sake.
That'd be fun. It was funny with the Guitar Hero 3 for the Wii, is that you actually had like a slot. It was a specific controller specifically where you had to slot the Wii remote in and then plug it in, and it was kind of funky, but I just remember it being this, super fun, cool, because it just used the Wii remote. And so I don't know if it used any of the motion control or anything. It might have just been basically a relay, but
to activate star power, I think you could just like swing the guitar up and use the motion control of that. But it was so like it wasn't sensitive enough, so you'd sit there like just swinging this thing wildly while you're still trying to hit all the notes, and it's like,
yeah, I think
good luck. Just press the button, Yeah,
those were wild times. Well, back to the peripherals, which, I mean, we're kind of still on the topic of peripherals, but I don't really I didn't have anything for the Guitar Hero controllers other than it seems like everyone's done something with the Guitar Hero controllers. You can't come up with a crazy idea for those because people are beat Dark Souls with them. So
yeah, pretty much. It's the only thing that I would want is like a Metroid dedicated Guitar Hero with the guitar. You wouldn't do any combat with it. It's just a celebration of the music and how good it is.
Oh yeah, I was thinking, like, if you want something really challenging too, you just like have to land a plane in Flight Simulator with a Guitar Hero controller.
That sounds awful. So, oh gosh.
But well, I did the Wii Balance Board last. It's your turn to come up with another peripheral.
Okay, let's see if I can think of one. Okay, so this kind of I mean, in some ways it's not a peripheral because it's more or less, it was standard basically for a while on Nintendo products. But do you remember back when they had the I think the first time so my understanding is they had one actually on like a revision of the NES controller or something like that. But the next time we saw it, and the most prominent time, was the microphone for Hey You Pikachu.
Yeah.
Well, there was one for the GameCube, actually. I don't know if you know about this.
I don't know about this.
So I have two, actually. So I got Mario Party 6 and Mario Party 7, and it comes with a basic microphone that fits in the second memory card slot. And it has a turquoise button on it. It's just like a long gray cylinder, right? And just one end has like slots where, obviously the microphone is, and you just press the turquoise button and talk into it. And they're like, oh yeah, revolutionary, like so good for Mario Party. Let's include this as a tie-in for, like with the packaging. So you got like the bulkier box and everything, so it could store it in. And it had one mini game. And my understanding, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, it was the same minigame between both games, and it's literally just one player has the microphone and has to remember what fruit is on which of the four cards that they hold up. It's just a memory game, and you just say like apple, banana, orange. My wife had never played Mario Party before, so we broke out Mario Party 7 like a few weeks ago, and I had the microphone. I'm like, oh, we'll plug it into the Wii. It should be great. And like, it's so easy. Like, you don't even have to take like a picture of it or cheat or anything. Like, it's so easy, and they just let you double your coins, like just by doing like it's so busted. It's not even fun. We 100% should have a dedicated microphone come back.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
who cares about having it in the console? Even if it's in the console, just give us a dedicated microphone with a cord and just allow us to play the Fruit mini game.
Oh my god. It's just built. It's like a pre-packaged title with the Switch 2.
Yeah, and that's all it is. It's like Wii Sports, but it's just the fruit guessing mini game. But, all joking aside, in some ways I kind of would like to see games utilize sound more. Like you look at and it sort of ties into actually the another peripheral, which was the Wii Speak. Do you remember that?
I do remember.
They had it for
Wii Speak.
Animal Crossing, and I feel like it was only used for Animal Crossing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it was used for something else. But like, some games make excellent use of sound. Like Alien Isolation is the one that everyone always goes to, where like, I don't know, you like someone in the next room like farts or something, and the alien hears you. And comes and kills you. And so, like, it's supposed to be like, oh, if you scream or you make a sound or something like that, then the alien hears you and it you gotta stay quiet or whatever. But like 9 times out of 10, it's like a cat that sets it off or something. So it's just a harder it's just ultra nightmare for it. I kind of want to see Nintendo do something with it. That isn't just they've basically never done voice chat outside of their app. And I'm not suggesting they do voice chat, but I feel like there's got to be some cool stuff with it. And we did get a little bit, and I think it was Mario Kart DS, where like if the blooper got you, you could blow into the microphone to get the ink to go away faster. So you did see like little bits and pieces, but I feel like they could do something really cool with a microphone. What exactly that would be is hard to say. The only thing I could possibly think of, like while I was trying to come up with this, is if they were to do sort of like a VR or like more immersive version of Luigi's Mansion, which is already sort of their de facto horror title. Metroid really is more, in my opinion, their horror title, but like Luigi's Mansion sort of is like a cartoony horror game, and has ghosts and like jump scares and stuff like that, whereas Metroid is just supposed to in general be like more oppressive and foreboding. And so I feel like Luigi's Mansion fits a bit more with what I'm like thinking of, especially because Metroid is just more solitary in general. But like, could you imagine like, I don't know, having some sort of microphone functionality with Luigi's Mansion? I'm not really sure what it would be, but like, I gotta imagine that Nintendo has at least talked about novel ways you could use the microphone. You know what I mean? Like, can you think of anything that they've done with it that's special?
Oh, I mean, on the DS, I feel like they definitely went hog wild on it. Mario Kart wasn't just you blow it to get the blooper go away. You could also, like when you're playing battle mode, you'd blow the balloons up by blowing into the microphone.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you'd use that. Then in Nintendogs, they used it a lot for like, I think, talking to dogs.
Yes.
Gosh, I feel like there was more. A lot of it was just blowing into the microphone, but I think there were even, I swear, like there was some kind of voice chat capability, but maybe I'm totally wrong, like in lobbies, but I can't remember. Like, I think if you played with your friends on Metroid Prime Hunters and you were in a friend lobby, you could do voice chat in the lobby.
Really?
I think so.
I never had friends that played it online. I had one friend at the time, and he had it, and neither of us played online. So I've never actually gotten to test this. I have played Metroid Prime Hunters online once, and I'm pretty sure that everyone was cheating. Pretty darn sure. Because that was very late, like Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, like DS era online multiplayers. Finally, when I got access to it, it was very late in the game.
Yeah.
So it was already a dead game at that point.
I think me and my brother, we tried it out. Like, I wanted to see how it worked because I was just so enamored by the idea that you could use voice chat on the DS. And so I think we just tried to force it. I think we did get it to work. But keep in mind, like, back then our Wi-Fi was garbage.
Oh
but
yeah, it was awful.
but it worked well enough that we were able to test it. So, and it was obviously garbage voice chat too. So it was kind of the whole thing was garbage. But it was again back then when it was so novel and different for a Nintendo system to have Wi-Fi and voice chat. So, as far as like uses like in a game though, I mean, I'm sure there's more. But as far as what they could do, like I was thinking Luigi's Mansion too as well when you were bringing it up. I was thinking like, yeah, something where like, yeah, if you say something like you get, ghosts come out, or I don't know, just some silly thing where like you're trying to be as quiet and sneaky as possible. So if you sneak up on a ghost and suddenly like, like you sneeze, like you just lose.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Essentially, it's just Alien Isolation cross Luigi's Mansion. I think we need that.
Well, I think also like here's an idea, and of course it has to be Star Fox.
Of course, because every idea has to be Star Fox.
It's like basically a voice modulator. So you talk into the game, and it modulates your voice into one of like into like a character in the game, so you sound like Falco or Fox or Slippy.
Fox, help me!
Oh gosh, and that would be awful. But actually, like that kind of makes me think like. In some ways, that would be kind of cool if they did, like, not necessarily the voice modulation, but, like, let's say that, like, they were to do a Star Fox, and let's say it was co-op, but it wasn't co-op in the way that, like, traditionally we would expect it, where, like, both characters are on the rails, but, like, one person's, like if one person's able to destroy enemies, and they, then it helps the other person, you know what I mean? Like you could have like a co-op experience where you never like really see each other but can help each other out, and like voice chat might be hypothetically useful, like, oh hey, this is coming your way, from this direction or something like that. Like I feel like you could actually do something cool with that. Again, that's just like another version of voice chat, but because everything that we talk about has to have a Star Fox application, that's the one that I could totally see being the case in a way that actually would be kind of interesting for gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, I think what they're trying to do, and I've seen games attempt this, I don't know how good they are, but it's going to come a point where they're going to be able to basically put AI into characters, and so you'll be able to talk to NPCs with your voice. It will translate to text. The game will understand what it is, and then they will be able to respond in real time based on what you said. I mean, that's the ultimate thing. I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon with a Nintendo game, but
No.
I think that's definitely a future I could see happening. It's already happening.
My hope is that the first like mainstream application that we see of that is in an Oblivion remake, and they specifically get the AI to be just as goofy as the original Oblivion AI.
Yeah, I mean, they just feed all the original script into an AI that specifically knows nothing else other than the script of Oblivion, like all the text.
And specifically the goofiest stuff. And so then, like, every character interaction is as goofy as possible.
Yeah, there's no differentiating between different personalities. So, like, everybody literally has the exact same text and personality to run off of. So you can run into some merchant and he talks like a soldier, or talks like, I don't know, just talks like anybody. And you just don't know what to expect.
In some ways, I kind of wish that Nintendo would attempt like an Oblivion style game, like not like in the like Legend of Zelda is probably obviously as close as you're gonna get, but I almost think like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are closer to a Souls game than like an Oblivion game. You know what I mean? And so I kind of would like to see them try that. I don't know which IP they would use. Or if it would be a totally new one, but I'd kind of like to see them try that.
I just want a janky physics adventure dungeon crawler Pikmin.
Oh, Pikmin would be hilarious to have as like an Oblivion style RPG. I feel like we need to pitch this at some point.
Right. That'd be fun.
That'd be good. We're getting to about the hour mark. Is there one more that you wanted to cover?
Gosh, just a couple here, but I'm going to throw one that I kind of had a funny idea for, but I wasn't really... So, I feel like one of the most notorious Nintendo accessories was the DK bongos.
Okay, yeah.
It was just such a weird, funky... It was kind of the actual game itself was really good, but like, it's such a funky way to control a game by just hitting these bongos. And I was like, okay. And I'm sure people have played lots of different games, but I'm like, wouldn't it be kind of hilarious if you had to play like a horror game with that controller?
And specifically with the audio that alerts it's like Alien Isolation but with bongos.
Right, it's like you try to run away from a guy, so you're just like beating the bongos super fast, which is creating like extra tension and stress. So it's just like, I mean, you think about like those tense moments where it's and it's just, I don't know.
That'd be so good. No joke, I actually thought for the longest time, like even just up until a couple of years ago, I've never like actually looked into like what the gameplay was like for that. I assumed it was a Guitar Hero style game with just 2 drums, and I'm like, there's no way this is actually fun. But my understanding now is that it is more of like, just like a platformer, right?
Yeah, it's just a platformer. And it just, you have to hit the, certain things in a certain way, and it can cause you to, it's clever, it's fun. It's just, obviously it was very niche, and a lot of people didn't quite understand the concept, but I think that developer went on to make a lot of big Nintendo games. I just can't remember what they made, but anyway, they actually, I think they made Mario Galaxy, that developer.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, I think it's the same developer. No joke.
Wow.
Because certain concepts from that game got into, like, I think Mario Galaxy.
Holy cow!
I'll have to look this up.
If that's true, that's really cool.
If I'm wrong, someone in the comments. Maybe I'm just spurring on some anger. I want some angry keyboard chattering in the comments because I got it wrong. But if I'm right, please tell me if I'm right too. I'll look this up afterwards. But
1,000 IQ strategy for getting more comments to say wrong things that people can correct us on.
But like, I don't know why. I just think like the whole idea is like it's kind of like the equivalent of the Guitar Hero thing, where it's like, try to beat Dark Souls with bongos. But I just love the idea of a horror game where it's like, as things get more tense, you're having to hit the bongos more, which means that you're just you're creating more and more stress. So the bongos are actually adding to the atmosphere of the game because you've got it, you've zombies or something's coming after you. You're just hitting these bongos like you wouldn't believe.
And you have to hit them harder, so then people in the other room are like, "Is he okay?"
Yeah, you want your neighbors to question your life choices.
Yeah. And then you need to have the microphone so you can screech into it like a gorilla.
Oh yeah, so you mixture the microphone, the bongos, and then like, I don't know, your feet have to still hit the action pad. So you just can combine 3 accessories into one game.
It's like the video game equivalent of the one-man bands from like movies. Like you've seen those where the guy's wearing like all the musical equipment. It's essentially that. And you might as well just wrap in the Power Glove, which we didn't talk about on purpose.
Yeah, I actually did have it on my list, but I had nothing to go for it because I was just like, it's basically like a mixture between a controller and a Wii remote back before the Wii remote was around.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and like it wouldn't be a Nintendo thing, but if you were to do like a VR style game with the Power Glove and it was just like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, this is like 10 years ago, but if you were to do that actually probably would have been kind of fun. But that's really the only application I could think of when I was like considering it. I mean, I guess, actually now that I say that out loud, if you were to do something with Metroid, like a VR Metroid, then you like make different, because like in Prime, the symbols on the beam are supposed to be like the like way that she's holding her fingers, and the way that she changes how her fingers are held, it switches between the beams, and you can actually see it with the X-ray visor. And so like if you were to do that with the Power Glove, like that actually would be kind of cool.
That'd actually be pretty sick. But at that point, I just want a full-on like Samus arm cannon accessory, like that. I just
make it happen, Nintendo.
Just make it real. Just like I want, in order to be fully immersed into Pikmin, I want them to give me a full helmet with a whistle on the front.
Absolutely, whistle accessory for the top of the Switch too.
Right? No. It literally you wear the whistle, like. It doesn't just go on the top of the Switch. It's like it's a wireless controller that you just whistle, and you have to. It's a real whistle, so all your neighbors are gonna hate you.
So really, the whistle doesn't actually do much of anything because it just uses the microphone.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it just makes sound, and they're like, "Oh, we're still gonna sell it for $30."
$30? No, $80.
It's like a 50-cent plastic whistle.
Right, but I mean, think about they sell the stinking Wii wheels for. Or the Switch
That's true.
Mario Kart was just pieces of plastic. It's like, yeah, they can get away with murder on that. But
They can.
well, this has been fun. There's so many other accessories I'm sure that we missed. If there's something we missed that you think would have been fun for us to talk about, leave it in the comments, or definitely, give us a funny idea that you think could have been done with some of these accessories that maybe we didn't think of. So, anyway, if you made it this far.
Yeah. Congratulations on making it this far. But honestly, like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's enough material here to do a part 2. Like, we didn't talk about the sewing machine.
Oh, I have that on my list.
Yeah, I figured I showed that video to my wife earlier, and she's like, "Oh, that's actually a really good idea. Maybe that would have been cool. I'd want that as a kid." And I'm just like, "Wow, you never say anything like that."
Oh yeah, I didn't go over the chainsaw controller either.
Wait, what? Oh wait, was this was Resident Evil 4, right?
Yes.
I knew it. Okay, yeah. So see, plenty of stuff that we could talk about. So who knows? Maybe we do a part 2 someday.
Yeah, maybe. So, anyway, but thank you everyone for listening and for sticking out this long. We appreciate every one of you. I mean, by one of you.
We know who you are.
Yep. Anyway, so then please be sure to follow us we're on multiple different streaming podcast platforms. Check the description on YouTube. Just like, subscribe, comment. And we appreciate, we continue to appreciate your time. And, I'm Leighton, he's Ryan, and we'll talk to you again next time. Bye.
Bye.